is Olga Adler from Austin Businesswoman, and today we're gonna talk about wedding photography. Sorry, our guest today is a famous wedding photographer, one of the top 5 photographers selected by Canon Corporation in the U.S., who has been doing wedding photography for almost 20 years, right? More than 20 years.
More
So
than 20
everyone,
years.
meet Vanessa Joy.
Hello, everyone. Sorry for my up and down, but just sent that request to join so everyone on Instagram can see us, which is where I like to hang out anyway.
Thank you for joining us. And I have a little shout out to Restream. Thank you, Restream, for letting us stream to a lot of social media platforms simultaneously. It's an Austin based startup, so I highly recommend it for your streaming, podcasting, YouTubing needs. And I also won this microphone, Shure microphone from Restream. Thank you so much, guys. And
Oh,
now
nice.
let's,
Mine is a shore also.
yeah, go Shure. So, Vanessa, tell us your story. How did you become a wedding photographer?
Wow, that goes way back. I actually fell in love with
Oh, wait, you need
photography.
to join the live on Instagram.
I sent my request. Oh, and looks like
Sorry.
you accepted it. There you go.
A little psych for Instagrammers. Here's Vanessa Joy.
Wonderful. There we go. All right, so I think we're good in both spots. Maybe we can ask the people to write in so we could make sure we're good.
Yes, perfectly.
All right. So, what got me into photography? I started in high school in the darkroom with film, and I fell in love with it. I was like skipping multiple classes after it. You could not drag me out of photography class, so I absolutely adored it. Um, I thought that photography wasn't like a real job. I thought it was, you went and did that on the weekends, and maybe you were a stay at home mom, like my mother, who was a photographer, was, or you had a real job, like my photographer. Sorry, I think I lost you on Instagram. Let me go back. There
Oh,
we go.
I still have you.
All right. Oh, good.
Ooh.
So my high school photography teacher did weddings on the weekends. So I thought, well, I'd have to have a real job, like be a teacher. So I actually went to school for teaching, among other things. I randomly have 5 different college degrees, none of which help me today whatsoever. I'm very against college in general. But
Wow.
I fell in love with wedding photography because I started working for my high school photography teacher after high school and worked for him for 5 years until somebody told me, hey, why aren't you doing this for yourself? And that's all I needed to give it a try. I remember looking at him, his name was Kenny, and was like, what do you mean do this for myself? I can't do this myself. Like you get a job, you work for other people, you don't like do it yourself. And he's like, no, you can do it yourself. I'm like, okay. So I
A big
did.
revelation.
And yeah, and I actually started my business the same year I started teaching. And 2.5 years later, I had to leave teaching because I got so busy and I had to leave in the middle of the school year. They were very angry with me. It's like something you don't do as
Ouch.
a teacher, but I
Sorry,
did.
school.
Sorry, school. And every September or August here in Austin, I do a happy dance so I don't have to go back to school. I get to be here home.
But you're still teaching, right? You're helping fellow photographers to master the skill so you can get the teacher out of the system.
Exactly. So I suppose I do learn things that I learned in college. But yes, I am a teacher, just not to kids. I used to teach third through fifth grade Spanish. So it's like pulling teeth. These kids don't want to learn Spanish. I mean, they like to learn how to say like taco, and that's about it.
Oh,
Now I
wow.
get to teach adults. I teach adults how to do photography. I teach adults how to run social media for their businesses, the ones that aren't photographers. I definitely get the teaching out.
Yeah, well, that's amazing because you achieved so much and you did it in the field that's very, I'd say, tricky because wedding photography, gosh, it's the wedding day is the most important day for many people in their life. And you are in charge of creating the memories. So there are so many things that can go wrong. So how did you have the courage to start doing it?
I did what most people don't do these days, which is work for another photographer and learn weddings. I didn't just buy my camera and try to go out and do my own thing. I spent time making all of my mistakes. Well, not all of them. I definitely made more sense, but making most of my newbie mistakes on someone else's business. So
Mm,
it's the best thing. People always ask me, what's something you can tell a newbie, when newbie photographer, newbie business owner of any kind? And it's always the same. Go work for another photographer, go work for as many different people as you possibly can, because you're going to learn more in 6 months of doing that than you will in 6 years of going to college.
I completely agree. Being an apprentice has been the thing for thousands of years, and you never go
Yeah,
wrong with learning
you
by
really don't.
someone's side and just imitating them and knowing what to do and what not to do. And okay, so then you did this huge leap. So you started doing it for yourself. So there was nobody to tell you what to
Did.
do. You were on your own. So how did that change your perspective on the business?
It changed a lot. Certain things you just don't understand when you're a newbie, or you don't understand the back end of what it actually takes to run a business. I think that happens a lot, especially on social media right now. We just post the good stuff. So it's like, oh,
Yeah.
they're so successful. They're, doing all these things, but we only show the tip of the iceberg. We tend to not show everything that goes on underneath. And as much as people try to prepare you for that and tell you, like, hey, this is really hard work, you don't necessarily get it until you're actually doing it, until you're trying to learn QuickBooks or file
Yeah.
your taxes and charge sales tax or whatever it is. It's all those little extra things that just become a little bit difficult at first, and then you get the hang of them, or better yet, you end up paying someone else to do them so you can do what you really want to do for your business.
Outsourcing.
Outsourcing, yes, absolutely. Very recommended.
And so, how did you start marketing your business? Because it was just you trying to wear many hats, as you said, accounting and running a business and doing the photography. So, what was um, the easiest and the hardest thing about it?
I would say the easiest thing about it was I was just about the same age as most of my couples at that point. Most of
Mm.
the people getting married were around 24, 25, 26. So I was the same age. And that just helped me to be able to relate. Plus, I was getting married myself at 26. So I was just very relatable. I had friends that were getting married. So I got their weddings, and it was just good timing for it. Um, Ironically, as I aged, so did the age of the average person getting married.
Oh,
So even now, I'm 38. I just photographed a bride, last year. She was 38. Actually, no, I was 37 at the time. So it's interesting. I feel like that's the luck part, the thing I couldn't control that went really well. And then as far as the rest of the marketing, I mean, I did everything. I did bridal shows. I tried networking with people. Tons of social media. Social media was definitely a strong suit, and still is today. One of the top ways that I get business is social media.
yeah, I can imagine it's easy to connect to a target audience if you share their values. So I'm sure a lot of brides to grooms, they just look for someone who have the same vision of their wedding day.
Mhm.
So,
Absolutely. They just want them to
how much
understand.
liberty do you have in, you know, the style of the photo shoot? Because you come and you're the professional, but the family, they have their own vision of the wedding. How much balance is there between your vision and theirs?
That is something that we talk about before they even decide to hire me. If they're telling me the type of photography that they like or what they want their day to look like, and it is basically how I run things, then great, we're going to be a good match. If we're speaking and they're describing photos that sound like a different photographer that I know, I will flat out tell them, hey, I don't think I'm the photographer for you. I think you'll like this person. I've
Mm,
done that more than once just because I'm not going to change. I mean, I do a little bit. Cater what I do to them, but I'm not going to do the exact opposite of my photography style in any given wedding.
mhm.
That almost be like, and this is going to sound really silly, but going to Chick-fil-A and asking them to make their chicken like Kentucky Fried Chicken. Like, you go to Chick-fil-A because you want Chick-fil-A. If you wanted KFC, you'd go to KFC. If you want McDonald's fries, you don't stand in the Burger King line, right? So
Mhm.
I feel the same way. If they're going to hire me, I want them to hire me because of what I create, not to mimic the creation of someone else. That being said, it's still, we talk about their day, the types of things they want to capture, what's most important to them. We help do their timelines. It is capturing their day. It's just not having me do something that's someone else's style.
Mm. Yeah, it makes sense because a lot of people hire photographer thinking that they're hiring a good quality picture, but they're also hiring the style, the personality, the artist with it. So it's not, and I know that all photographers are kind of mad at people who are applying filters or editing DIY in the pictures that they receive, or they ask the digitals before there. So how do you deal with unreasonable requests?
When it comes to filters, it's sort of like a double-edged sword. Yeah, I can be mad at filters all day long, but ultimately it really doesn't matter because the photo that I edit on my computer is not going to look the same on their computer. It's not going to look the same on their friend's phone or their mom's phone. It's going to vary. So if they slap a filter on it, like, yeah, it's like, oh, that kind of is ugly. I wouldn't have done that, but it's their picture. So it's ultimately that doesn't matter to me. And really, photographers have been slapping on filters on their photos for a very long time. They're called presets. They're in Lightroom. We've been doing it for some time. So it's only natural that our clients are going to end up doing it. And hey, if they want to Facetune their own pictures and then I don't have to retouch, sure, go ahead. Have fun.
Yeah, in the
I'd
end,
rather take
it's
more
their
pictures.
pictures.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, it really is.
Speaking about more pictures, we have a question from Jaspreet. How you maintain your health while wedding season back to back shoots? Not able to sleep properly too?
Oh, yeah, that's huge. Absolutely, especially during wedding season. And you have double weddings where, like, you're not done with Friday's wedding until midnight, and then you have to be at the next wedding by 10 a.m. And you still have to go home and back up your photos and all these things. So, the best thing that I can say is you have to maintain your health. What you eat, things that give you energy, things that are serving your body, and then also keeping your body in shape because those wedding days are long. You're carrying a lot of heavy equipment, which is why actually I have something. It's called yogaforphotographers.com. And I teach
Oh,
yoga to photographers specifically for their ailments. When it comes to wedding days, I even have like a quick 10-minute pre-wedding day workout and a post-wedding day workout. Um, it's pretty fun. You should check it out. But it's
this is
important.
so
Otherwise,
cool.
you're just gonna wear yourself out.
It's photographer self care routine.
Hmm.
Do they? Do you eat during weddings? Because they're there all day. Do you allow yourself a pause? Do people even feed photographers?
Oh, that's a big issue right now. I'll tell you a story. There
Oh,
was recently someone in the media that was hired. They weren't really a wedding photographer. They were a guest at the wedding, but then the couple were like, "Hey, can you take pictures of the wedding instead? We'll pay you $250." Which, for the record, if you're paying your wedding photographer $250, you better not expect much. But long day, been shooting. You're By the time dinner rolls around at a wedding reception, you're usually shooting for about 7 or 8 hours at that point, and maybe you get to that granola bar that you have stashed in your photography bag, but not always. Anyway, the photographer slash guest found out he was no longer a guest. They did not give him a place to sit, but it was a buffet. So he went to go eat, to go get food from the buffet, and the groom, I believed, was approached him and said, "I'm not paying you to eat. Go take pictures." And the photographer was so offended and so appalled, rightfully so, that he
I can
deleted all the pictures on
imagine.
the spot and said, I'll give you back your $250.
That's
Deleted all his
insane.
wedding photos.
People,
Yeah.
be
I don't
nice
know
to
that I
your
would
wedding
have.
photographer.
Yeah. And not that I like need to be fed. I mean, technically it's in my contract that they're supposed to feed me. Um, and feed me at the same time that guests are being fed, mostly because I don't want to someone to finally give me food and that's when they're cutting the cake, because then like sometimes they shove me into a whole
Mhm.
different building and I don't even know what's going on. So I prefer that they're going to feed me, do feed me in the room or close to the room and at the same time everyone else is eating, so that I don't miss anything. But you know what? If I'm going to a hall and I know that they're not good at feeding vendors, I just order DoorDash. Then it comes whatever I want to eat. I'll eat, good food, and then we move on with life. But it's definitely a little bit of a tension point with photographers, wedding photographers.
Yeah, just don't count on anyone. Just trust DoorDash and your own
Yeah.
choices. We
So true.
have a question from Ria about inspiration. Where do you get
Oh,
inspiration for your
hey.
poses and creative shots?
Hey, Aria. I get, hmm, I get it from a lot. I tend to do my best work when it sounds funny, when I'm emotionally involved with my client, when I like take the time to actually be a part of the day and what they're feeling versus just looking at it like another job. So I feed very much off the people that I'm photographing. And then I do have inspiration with things I see on Instagram, mostly Instagram. I used to say Pinterest, but I really don't go on there anymore. So I have, saved photos of things that I want to try, whether it's a wedding shoot or, I do a ton of portraiture as well. I love doing, especially for small businesses and women, I love
Mhm.
doing, a couple hours of photo shoot and create a ton of social media content for them. So when I'm looking for stuff like that, I'm usually inspired by their story, what they're doing, and what they're trying to achieve with their business.
Mhm. And speaking about, so we have a lot of questions about equipment. We have questions about Canon cameras and about should I shoot with this or should I shoot with that? Is there a way photographers can reach out to you and like get a consultation or ask you about all the nitty gritty details about the
all
tools?
all the equipment. So the best thing that people can do is go to my YouTube channel because I have a ton of videos. I just hit 60,000 subscribers there today. So there's a lot of
Congratulations.
information. Thank you. There's tons there all about the different photography gear. You can DM me, although I will be very honest, it's extremely difficult. I get hundreds of DMs a day, and every once in a while, I get to go through and answer questions. Um, but that's not the easiest. The best thing to do if you want to actually have a consultation is to email me, and then I do
Mhm.
video chat consultations and can help you out with that kind of thing.
Yeah, and on our YouTube description of the video, we actually have a link to the free ebook by Vanessa Joy about uh, branding, right? Photography
Hmm.
business branding. So you can get it there. And how did your journey with Canon start? Why did you choose Canon, and what do you love about it?
I have used Canon since I started using my mom's camera. So she used Canon film cameras, and it's just always been there. So I learned on it. I did learn on a Pentax a little bit in high school, but it's always been Canon. The photographer that I had worked for a while shot Canon, so it was just always home to me. I have tried other things. I tried out Nikon. I tried out Sony. I tried out Pentax and Panasonic, and they just weren't what I wanted. Not to mention some of my favorite photographers like Joe Busank and Dennis Reggie that were really influential to me. They used Canons and they taught on Canons, so it was just natural for me. Plus, there's just nothing like the lenses that they make. I mean, the cameras are amazing, but they've always had really incredible lenses, and they have not failed at innovating on them. If you're a photographer, try the Canon 2870 f2 lens. It's just, especially for weddings, it's incredible. It's a little heavy. You're going to need to do that yoga to carry it around, but it's great. I have so I've been around Canon and used Canon my whole life, and then it was always a goal really for the past 20 years that I knew I wanted to be an Explorer of Light. And that's like their upper echelon program, best photographers in the world, that hit a lot of different check boxes. I would never say I'm the best photographer in the world because I just don't think that's true. But
Well,
it's
they
more
think
like
so.
photographer. Well, that's great. I think to put everything together, whether it's photography, being able to speak in public, know marketing, run a successful business, things like that. So I am one of the 5 wedding photographers in the world that has that honor. There are other photographers there that aren't wedding photographers, but I'm pretty happy to be the top 5. It's a lifelong goal.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I love the your YouTube channel. You teach so many things. And also, I think I first saw you on Instagram Reels. You were still in New York, so no connection for Austin, but you just moved to Austin, so yay.
I
And
do.
I remember your reels being so entertaining for photographers and non-photographers alike. It was just so much fun, so much behind the scenes, so many things of what not to say to a photographer or like the I don't know. It was just so much fun. So how did you start being active on social media?
It started with Facebook. So many years ago, when it was still called the Facebook, I was putting my wedding photography on there, and it was one of my main forms of marketing. And wherever social media went, I just followed it because I knew that was a place to be, to get business, to brand yourself, to establish yourself. And it still is today. I get leads all the time, just straight from Instagram. So I put a lot of effort into that, which is, it's kind of like the chicken or the egg. It works because I put effort into it, and I put effort into it because it works. So when Reels came out, I was very much like most people. It was really TikTok, that came out first, and I didn't like it. And like most people with new things, I don't want to learn it. I don't want to have another thing to do. But then, of course, lockdown hit, which is when TikTok exploded because we're all bored out of our minds, and
Mm.
we had time to actually do it. So, fell in love with TikTok because it just made me laugh, and I love to laugh. Who doesn't, right? Well, some people don't. I find there's a lot of
Yeah.
YouTube trolls actually that don't like to laugh at all, or people on my Instagram reels who are just mad I'm laughing. But, when
Oh.
Instagram had to keep up with the times and they started doing reels, they were boosting those like crazy. And I just jumped on it. I had fun doing it, so I still do it. And I've never seen Instagram or any social media growth like I have with using reels. So if you are a small business owner, I highly suggest using reel. I don't highly suggest it. It's like, what are you doing? Please use reels. It's going to be the best engagement, and reach that you have with your social media right now.
Yeah, it's a very valuable advice. A lot of people shy away from social media because they don't want to be in front of the camera. And what's your advice from someone who is usually behind the camera to put yourself in front of the camera, especially in a very casual way,
Oh,
candidly, without, wedding makeup or anything like that?
definitely just take it slow. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be complicated, especially with TikTok or Reels. The simple as it gets, you put yourself in front of it and like you point to things and you smile and then you add the text later. You don't have to dance if you don't want to, but by all means do if you do. And just slowly do it. One of the best things to do if your face is not on your social media is to hire a photographer like I do my lifestyle sessions, whether it's for branding or, um, just women in general. Just get in front of the camera, spend an hour, 2 hours, get your hair and makeup done, find a few outfits that you feel really good in, and just take some photos around your environment. And, in 1 to 2 hours, you will have been in front of the camera, gotten more comfortable, and probably gotten like 6 months worth of social media content of yourself done.
Yeah, it's great. So you don't have to take videos of yourself in your PJs and without your face on. So you can do some prep work. Definitely.
Definitely,
We have
definitely.
a question from Phil. Do you let amateur photographers shadow you on a shoot?
I do sort of. So I very much protect my clients, especially my wedding clients. They're paying me a lot of money, so I'm not going to have just random people follow me. However, I do always have a second photographer and an assistant the day of the wedding. So the second photographer is someone who's trained by me or established photographer that I can trust to do the job of a second shooter, but the assistant to the photographer, me, and then also a third photographer, really how I train other photographers to end up shooting with me. So I do have some people shadow me in that sense where they're actually working for me and not shooting, but they do learn a lot and they're getting paid as an assistant. Then, but I don't do it with random people. I do it with people that I know I can train to work for me that actually want to work for me. I'm not going to just have a new person every single day random. It's like playing roulette with my clients. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I guess a lot of unexpected situations which you don't need on a wedding.
Right. Exactly.
We have a comment from Sarah, and she wants to thank you for all the tips and information she learned from you. I've been following you for years. Back in 2015, I heard you at WPPI. Guess it's some secret organization. And I took so many notes. Still rocking my business to this day. Thank you, Vanessa.
Oh, my
Isn't it the
pleasure. That's
best?
amazing to hear. I saw another gear question here from Chink21. He's asking about the 28 to 70 lens. So it's the RF 28 to 70. It's only for mirrorless cameras. Oh, hey, Manny
Mm.
Ortiz. Yay, he's watching. What you doing?
I have
Manny
so
Ortiz
many
is an amazing
comments and
photographer.
yeah, have questions and so yeah, a lot of technical questions for photography. It's not all just poses and inspirations. It's a lot of hard work. Do you update your equipment, your cameras from time to time, or are you loyal to one particular piece?
I tend to have my favorites. So I love my 1DX line on the Canon cameras. And it's technically like a sports photography camera, but I loved it. Now I love my R5 and also my R3. Because I'm a Canon Explorer of Light, I do get to play with the gear and I get to, see it and see what's coming before most people do. So I tend to have my hands on the top of the line gear. I am so fortunate, very, very fortunate. So I do tend to change, but I tend to stick with like one line that I like. So right now that's the R5. And then every lens possible. Lenses are my favorite thing. I have way too many.
Well, speaking about lenses, there is a question from Bassi. If you could just use one prime lens on a full frame body to shoot the wedding, which would it be?
If so, I used to be a prime baby. At least that's what I call it. Like I would only shoot with prime lenses, which prime lens basically means it's not a zoom lens. So like I can't zoom in close or come out wide.
Hmm.
And I would bring my 24, 50, 24, 35, 50, 85, 100, 135, and a 70 to 200 on any given day. Now you know why I work out because that's a lot. But the
Hmm.
28 to 70 replaced my 24, 35, and my 50. So I would not shoot one prime lens when I have that lens available. If I had one lens in general to shoot with on a wedding day, it would be that 28 to 70, no problem. And then after that, if I could add one more lens, I would bring the 135 f2. But if I had one prime lens, and I have to stick to your question, it would probably be either the 50 or the 35. I would want the 50, but I'd probably bring the 35 just in case I had to shoot something wide and my 50 wasn't going to cut it. It's a very difficult
Oh,
question. It's like asking me which
yeah.
child of mine is my favorite.
Yeah, I'm nodding because I'm definitely understanding all of this. And yeah, I know what it means. Totally not. So we have a question that you might feel very emotional about because it's what's happening in your life now. Mark is asking, "Hi Vanessa, what's your best advice for someone who moved to a new city and needs to rebuild their
Oh,
customer
man.
base?"
It is so daunting, Mark. I feel you. It is so difficult. Well, there's a lot of ways you can do it. And I think you just have to decide what kind of business you want. For me, I love, how do I put this nicely? I love to work with the people I like. It I don't particularly enjoy working weddings anyway with people that I'm not particularly fond of or we don't mesh, right? So, for example, there are certain halls in New Jersey, I won't name which ones they are, and New York, where if I booked a wedding there, it might be the most beautiful venue in the entire world, but dear God, if I had to talk to that maitre d' again, like I literally was going to quit on the spot. And I know certain photographers, because of like maitre d's or wait staff or just the hall in general, they refuse to work at some venues. Um, so
Mhm.
on the flip side, there are a couple of venues like the Ashford and the Shadowbrook that I absolutely adore. Whenever I get a wedding and I get to work there, I'm like, yes, I get to see Laura today. I get to see Mark today. I get to see, the different people that I know that work there. And I just absolutely love it. So, with that in mind, moving to a new city, I'm like, I can either spend money on advertising, I can spend money on social media ads, or I can spend money connecting with wedding planners and halls and taking them out for drinks and finding friends. And that's what I decided to
Oh.
do. Yeah, because ultimately, and I'm not against any of, the ads. Like I do the wedding wire and the nod, or, I spend money on social media stuff and all that's well and good. But if my goal was to like find those new set of friends, new set of places that I liked working with and I liked those people and get excited about working with them or at a particular place, then that should be how I market. So that's what I'm doing. So figure out what your goal is for your business and find a way that markets towards that goal. That being said, if there are any Austin wedding planners and venues watching this, then definitely hit me up. I have marketing budget to take you out for drinks.
Oh, we'll connect you. We have a lot in our Austin community, so we're
Good.
gonna party. You promise to invite me. I'll just sit there and nod with
Absolutely.
a yeah, I do understand. Another question about inspiration. Do you take inspiration from other photographers or artists from the past?
Absolutely. I'm a visual learner, and I think a lot of photographers are. So, things that you see, it might not be one specific photographer. I think it's a little bit too close to just follow one. It really can be anything. I tend to go my explore page on Instagram, and it shows me two things. It shows me wedding photography and bunnies because that's pretty much what I
Oh,
look at on Instagram. So, I just go through there and find things that I like and find stuff that inspires me.
good. And question about timeline for the client. When you
Ooh.
finish shooting a wedding, what's the timeline to get the pictures? I'm sure they want them
I
next day.
promise. Well, they do, so I give it to them that night instead. People are like,
Really?
"Wait, what? You do what?" I do. Not all of them, but usually like my favorite 30, 40, or if I have a lot of time, for some reason, like 60 to 80, and I Wi-Fi them because my Canon R5 has Wi-Fi on my R3, and I Wi-Fi them to my phone. I find my favorites, I edit them right on my phone in Lightroom, and then I airdrop them the night before I leave. And then the rest of their photos are ready usually in 3 to 4 weeks. Um, yeah, just depending on the day. So I shot a wedding December 4th, and their photos should be done in a couple of days. But more importantly than those photos being ready very quickly is afterwards. So usually photographers can get them photos by the 3-month mark. That's the industry average is like 8 to 12. I think that's too long. But the harder part is getting their album done. And a lot of people
Mhm.
end up taking years to do that or never doing it at all. So I have taken that problem away, and when their photos are done just a week or two later, their initial album design is done as well. And I don't have my clients design the album themselves because they've never done that before, and it's very daunting to pick 100 out of the 1,000 pictures that I took and know what looks good in an album. So I do that for them. My graphic designer does that for them, and then we sit down and go through page by page and make the album what they want it to be. So, because of that process, because it's not painful, because I help them along with it, they usually have their final product within 3 to 6 months from their wedding. So, I am very proud of my workflow. Very, very proud.
That's great because also the sending them a couple of pictures right after the wedding, I think it's so important because they want to show it on social media. And I know I've been to enough weddings where people are like, don't post any of your pictures from your phone because they don't want a
Yes,
guest's amateur picture to be the first
the
impression that
first.
all the friends get. Yeah, so if there is a professional picture that they can post right away and other people can share, that's just that's so valuable. And I think it's a
Yep.
really uh, good move to win the trust of the couple. And there was
Definitely.
a question about workflow when it comes to editing. What's your workflow for editing?
So those favorite photos, those are done in Lightroom, and I do have presets. You can go to presets.breatheyourpassion.com, or if you're on Instagram, there's a link in bio to my presets. But I use those. I use one called Joyfully Simple, and it's a very simple preset. It brightens up the vibrance, brightens up skin tones, adds a little bit of contrast and pop. And a little bit of sharpness, and actually lowers the clarity a little bit to smooth out skin. So that's my workflow for my favorite photos that I actually want to edit. Everything else I send to Freedom Edits. And if you go to freedomedits.com/Vanessa Joy, there's a nice little coupon there for you. It's not an affiliate link. I don't get anything, just some brownie points maybe, but that's who I use. And they edit everything else because I have no desire to sit, even if it only took me an hour to edit a wedding, that's an hour I could be going out, with that wedding planner, or an hour I could be talking to you instead versus doing something that I can pay someone else to do. And honestly, they can probably do it better and more consistently than I can.
That's great, and I'm glad that being a photographer and a creative person, you found a way to not spend 90% of your time in front of your computer just
Yeah,
editing something that other people can do, some that people who enjoy it can do all day long,
right.
and you can
Yes.
network, you can meet new people, and you can actually crash a wedding. Well, not crash,
Yeah.
they invite you. So, and so what would be your best tips to people who are just starting their wedding photography business? Some do's, some don'ts, and some you better not.
Well, do go shoot for as many different other photographers as you can, or assist for them, and do it for free because the education is absolutely priceless. Obviously, you need to start earning money, so maybe not second shoot for free, but try to get as much experience watching other photographers work so you can figure out for yourself what you like and what you don't like on someone else's business versus experimenting on your own. And then make sure that you do not market yourself at those weddings. One of the biggest faux pas, but you don't know it unless you're kind of established already and you understand, is to create vendor relationships or relationships with the client or their friends from a job where you're working for somebody else. That's a huge no no. That's like taking the referrals right out of the other photographer's hands when it should be theirs. So obviously some relationships happen naturally. Like I have, assistants that had gone on a job and for some reason they just really clicked with the florist or whatever it was. Those things happen naturally, but don't like go after it because it's just not so ethical.
I believe it's like in any other industry. A lot of people who work for a company, they have a contract that says that you are not allowed to collaborate with your employer's clients for at least like I don't
Hmm.
know 2 years, 5 years. So it should only be
Right.
natural. And I can imagine how it might be disappointing if you are taking in someone to teach them, show them all the tricks, and then they steal your clients. So if you're a wedding
Right.
photographer, don't do that. Or any other photographer
Definitely.
who's helping the first photographer.
Hmm.
All right. And tell us a little bit more. The last question would be about the ebook that people can download.
Oh, yeah.
What should be the expectations? What can people find there? And how can it help them?
It will help them put their best foot forward in front of clients and potential clients, whether it's digitally or in person. There are just certain things that you might not think about, especially if you're just starting out. or even stuff you didn't realize you should have thought about and you've been in business for years. So make sure that you give it a look. There are 9 different tips there that will just help you make yourself more approachable, make yourself appear more professional in there. And if you do go to my Instagram, I have another freebie for photographers. There's a lot of people asking about posing. There's actually a free posing guide in my link in bio also. There's a lot of freebies in my link in bio, so definitely check that out. And then I'll see you around, because if you do that, you have to give me like your email, your DNA, your firstborn son, and you never leave me.
Oh, I already did. So it's the best experience, guys. You should totally do this.
Good.
And definitely follow Vanessa Joy on Instagram and on YouTube, because I learned so much from YouTube. I'm not a photographer, but it's so contagious. You just watch all those tips and tricks and tutorials, and it's just the best thing. Maybe someday I'll be a
Maybe
photographer too.
someday. You never know.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your experience and expertise. And see you around in Austin now that you're here.
Thank you. Yes, drinks
Okay.
soon on me.
Yay. Drink soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye.